If you could tell parents one thing, what would it be?
If I could tell parents one thing, it's really hard to choose because there is so much advice you could give. But one thing you need to recognize is that if your baby is deaf, that doesn't really define who the baby is. You have to understand that deafness is just a part of the baby, not who he is. So be willing to compromise and let that child grow up to who he can be. If he wants to communicate only in ASL, let him communicate only in ASL. That's fine. That's his personality, his way of seeing the world. To focus your support not on you need a better interpreter, you need a better education. Focus on his personal and mental growth. If he's not mature mentally or socially, if he doesn't have athletic skills, if he's not being allowed his full potential, you want to let him have a full potential to be who he can be. The parents need to focus on your connection with the kid. If you want a connection with your child, I encourage you to sign yourself. How else will you communicate? If they wear hearing aids, they will be frustrated with SimCom sometime. So if you want communication access with your child, I really recommend that you learn ASL or signed English. Learn all that you can. It's not difficult. Many places have ASL classes where you can go inexpensively, just a few hours a week. I know several places where you can take ASL classes. My friends went. If my friends could go, you as parents can go. Maybe both parents can go, or one parent can take the class and teach the other parent. You want to do the best for your child. Maybe you want to send them to TSD. Maybe they want to go to a deaf school, that's fine. Or if they want to go to a hearing school, that's fine. They want to go to a school that has a better football team, that's great. So do what's best for them. My mom did correct me a lot, not to diminish my self-esteem, but to boost me, to encourage me to look at situations differently. Maybe my way of looking things as a deaf person was a little different. And so every situation you can look at as different. And in that way, I had a balance, a different perspective. And I could use those different viewpoints to look at, okay, why did this happen and how did this happen? But don't use deafness as a limitation. Use it as a support, like, wow, they can. Another thing I would advise, there's a big discussion about cochlear implants, hearing aids, FM systems, interpreters, ASL, a variety of different ways of communicating. But do what's right for yourself and do what's right for your kid. You can teach the kid everything. Teach your children ASL, English, Spanish, ESL, Japanese. Doesn't matter, everything. And then as they grow up, they'll have enough education within themselves to choose which language they want to use. I talk with my friends a lot, but I like to sign also. I have a choice. I have that choice because I can do both. I know a little bit of Spanish, and that helps too. If I go to Mexico and I can't understand what's going on, that helps me a little bit. And maybe the child won't like to sit and learn those different things, but understand that whatever you do now will influence them later. And when they look back, they'll think, well, wow, I'm proud of my mom for doing that for me. My mom was willing to take ASL. My mom was willing to make that next step. I'm not alone. If I was born hearing, she wouldn't have ever learned ASL. But since I was born deaf, my mother needed to make that extra step, and she did. And she willingly did it. And she didn't complain. So later, they don't have to think, gosh, I wish I would have done that. My mom accepted me for who I was. They never said, you're my deaf daughter. They said, here's my daughter. And then you make your own judgment. That's the best thing you can do for your kids, is accept them the way they are. Don't label your baby as your deaf baby. Label them as your baby, because that's who he is. He's your baby. He's your child. And you can let him grow up to be whoever he wants to be. But if you want to do that, you need to make that step to learn ASL, to learn ESL, to learn everything you can, to give him their full potential. And later, when he's old enough, you let the child decide. So the situation regarding cochlear implants or hearing aids, like I said before, many parents wonder, what should I do? Give my baby a cochlear implant now and it'll help them later. I really kind of disagree, because I believe that cochlear implants are wonderful new science. The technology has improved. But what if later the child doesn't want it? That's a waste of $5,000, the hospital bills, the insurance. My suggestion would be to, if you want your child to have that advantage or that access, have them start with hearing aids and have them learn about why they're wearing a hearing aid and explain it to them. Doesn't mean that I want you to be hearing. I know that you're deaf, and be proud of that. But why are you wearing hearing aids? This just gives you more access. Explain what the purpose is. You can explain that the hearing aid doesn't define who he is. The cochlear implant doesn't define who he is. It's what he does, his actions, his behaviors, his personal character. That is what defines who he is. So it's really your choice, but I would suggest that you wait for a cochlear implant, a surgical procedure that's very expensive, very invasive. The child can't remove it. They're stuck with it the rest of their life. What if later there are new technologies? And maybe when he's 14 and there's a new technology he could take advantage of. I don't know what it would look like, an antenna system, just an example of why can't I have that? Because you already have a cochlear implant and you can't remove it. So instead of making that big lifetime decision for the child, I think to take advantage of letting him make that decision when he's older, maybe 10 years old. You make the decision when he's old enough, maybe 14, when the child starts saying, I don't want to wear hearing aids. And I wouldn't mind having more access. You let them have that decision.